Welcome to this explainer on 67, Sociocultural Aspects in the Foreign Language Curriculum. If you're gearing up for those competitive pedagogical exams, you are in the exact right place. Because today, we aren't just talking about how to teach vocabulary lists or grammar drills. No, we're diving into how to teach the very soul of a language. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start by defining culture and society, then explore how language and culture are completely intertwined. After that, we'll look at the evolution of cultural pedagogy, figure out how to address learner heterogeneity, and wrap up with your role as a cultural mediator. Section 1. Defining culture and society. To really get into the sociocultural dimension, we need to set up a solid scientific baseline. People throw around the words culture and society all the time, like they mean the exact same thing, right? But pedagogically speaking, they are definitely distinct. Culture is all about the behavior that's entirely specific to us, Homo sapiens. Think of it as the collective ideas, beliefs, and language passed down through generations. Society, on the other hand, refers to the actual human groups. It's the social structure, those interconnected institutions that actually end up shaping and constraining the choices we make as individuals. So to put it simply, culture is the what and the how, while society is the structured who. Now, a really fascinating pillar of all this is a concept called symboling. This is our uniquely human ability to just freely assign arbitrary meaning to things and events. Like, take the word dog. We all decided that specific spoken sound represents a furry four-legged pet, but there's absolutely no inherent physical link between that sound and the animal. We just assigned it. Grasping this idea of arbitrary assignment is kind of step one in realizing that language itself is actually a cultural artifact. Moving on to Section 2. Language and culture intertwined. Let's see how those baseline definitions prove that linguistic and cultural systems simply cannot be separated. Language is obviously way more than just a tool to get a point across. It is fundamentally baked into a functioning social system. The psychologist Charles Osgood hit the nail on the head with his theory of meaning. He proposed that the full meaning of any word for an individual is just the sum total of their experiences with that word inside their cultural environment. You know, kids don't just learn a language in a vacuum. They are picking up cultural values right alongside those linguistic structures, wrapping every new word in the attitudes and unspoken assumptions of their community. And this is exactly why finding a perfect one-to-one equivalent between languages is so incredibly rare once you get past pointing at basic physical objects. Take words like family, modern, or communism. Sure, you can translate the dictionary definition easily enough, but the emotional baggage, the value judgments, those shift entirely when you cross a border. In one culture, family immediately brings to mind a tight-knit nuclear unit. In another, it means a massive, extended clan. You literally can't just swap the word out and expect the exact same cultural weight to transfer. Because of that lack of perfect equivalence, you are going to see cultural disconnects in your classroom. It's inevitable. Our sources highlight a classic example: foreign learners totally misinterpreting the English greeting, "How are you?" They might think it's a genuine medical inquiry instead of just a formulaic polite noise. Or think about the unspoken rules around politely refusing things. There's a great anecdote where English learners were completely shocked by a dialogue where someone refused a drink the first time it was offered. In their native culture, turning it down meant you actually disliked it. But in the target culture, it was just a polite formality before saying yes to the second offer. These aren't grammar mistakes. They're cultural misfires. Section 3. Evolution of cultural pedagogy. So we've got the theory down. Let's quickly trace how educators have actually tackled this in the past. Thankfully, we've come a long way from the outdated expository, explanatory method. Back in the day, teaching culture basically meant lecturing students with dry, uninterpreted facts: capital cities, random historical dates, geography. But critics, rightly so, pointed out that this rote memorization totally distracted from actual language acquisition. Plus, it did zero to help students understand the fundamental beliefs of the people speaking the language. So today, in the modern era, we use integrative models. This means we treat language and culture as a single, inseparable, living whole. Which brings us to Section 4, Addressing Learner Heterogeneity. This is the practical core of our explainer. How on earth do we adapt this complex material for the actual people sitting in front of us? Well, it comes down to cognitive and emotional developmental stages. You absolutely cannot teach cultural nuance to a 14-year-old the same way you teach it to a 40-year-old professional, right? Their brains, their social goals, their emotional baselines, they are entirely different. And that means your methodological approach has to be entirely different too. When you compare these two groups, the contrast is pretty stark. Adolescents are right in the thick of forming their identities. They might be a bit rebellious, and they heavily rely on aligning with their peers. So for them, you need interactive tasks, games, and strong ties to the target youth culture, like music or social media trends, because they want to identify with the speakers of that language. Adults, on the other hand, are highly driven by pragmatic, immediate goals. They bring this wealth of varied background experience to the classroom. They do best with self-directed learning and practical, cross-cultural applications that they can actually take and use in their careers or travels. You've got to tailor the cultural input to fit the psychological profile. Finally, Section 5, Teachers as Cultural Mediators. Let's talk about your specific role in all of this. As the educator, you aren't just a walking grammar dictionary. You are a cultural mediator. Your job is to present cultural information objectively, analytically, and informatively. It's absolutely crucial to fiercely avoid any kind of chauvinistic approach that implies one culture, whether it's your native one or the target one, is somehow superior. You have to be a neutral guide taking them through unfamiliar territory. Your ultimate goal is to build bridges. By actively highlighting not just the differences, but also the really surprising similarities between their native culture and the target culture, you create a safe space for your students. Because, let's be real, both adolescents and adults are bringing their own deeply ingrained biases into your classroom. If you analyze cultural misunderstandings constructively, you can help them unpack those biases without them ever feeling attacked. So, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to chew on for your future lesson plans. Are you simply teaching your students a new linguistic code to crack just so they can translate their thoughts into a foreign language without truly grasping it? Or are you taking the time to develop genuine, empathetic, intercultural communicative competence? Because our sources make one thing crystal clear. The goal isn't just to have students dress up their cultural offensiveness in better local vocabulary. The real goal is to empower them to interact with the world with genuine insight and profound respect. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I hope it gives you some incredible insights for your own pedagogical approach.